Why would anyone buy something that they're guaranteed to lose money on? My name's Eric. This is above my pay grade. Let's get into it. Remember, we talked in one of the last videos about what a bond is. It's essentially government debt. And we kind of went over why they sell them, etc. But here's something to consider about our financial system right now. A bond yield right now, a 10-year bond yield, is, I believe, just at 2%. So anyone who buys bonds is guaranteed to lose money. That means if you spend $1,000, you might get 2% every year, and then at the end of those 10 years, you'll get $1,000. But if inflation's running above 2%, you're guaranteed to lose money. Why would anyone in their right mind buy a government bond? So you're asking, if a bond is guaranteed to lose money, who in the world is buying them? That's right, we're buying them. Or, well, the Federal Reserve is. Federal Reserve has $9 trillion, with a T, dollars on their balance sheet. So, when a bond doesn't make any fiscal sense to actually purchase on the open market or from another government, just buy it from ourselves. You know, like if you had a store and you weren't selling anything, you can just ask your wife to buy from that store, and that way she can just buy as much as she wants. It'll be great. You'll make tons of money. So you say, Eric, what does all this bond talk even mean? Using all these stupid financial terms. Well, what it really means in the long run,
we are screwed.
Well, there's all kinds of rules out there. Pensions, there's a big one in California. They're required to have a certain allocation of bonds. So what does this mean? If their allocation of bonds in their pension portfolio loses money, as we just discussed, then their other allocation, whether it be stocks, which more than likely it is, has to make a even bigger gain to make up for the loss in bonds. For example, if you're losing, let's say with the inflation the way it is, let's say you're losing 5% a year. That means if you have to make 7% to actually pay out your pension beneficiaries, then your stocks actually have to make somewhere in the neighborhood of 14% to make up for that -5. Do you think that's going to happen? Absolutely not. So why in the world does any pension fund buy these things? There's rules from the government that they can't take undue risk with their pension fund. So they have to have a certain allocation of safe, guaranteed to lose money, bonds. Makes sense, right? So why does this matter to you? As the government continues to pay for more and more items like Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, and those ticket items keep going up, or the price of those keep going up, obviously they're going to either need more tax receipts or they're going to need to print more money or take out more debt, aka sell bonds. Who in their right mind is going to buy them? On top of the fact that the United States often sells treasuries, bonds, to foreign countries like China and Russia, our mortal enemies. Now, if you were a country, let's say hypothetically you're Russia, and you have some dollars or bonds on your balance sheet, and you've been a naughty boy, so you decide to invade Ukraine, and the United States says, you can no longer hold those bonds. We're going to rescind those and not pay them out. Even if, regardless of what you think about Russia, what country is going to look at what the United States just did with Russia as far as not keeping the dollar neutral? Because Russia buys these bonds and they're priced in dollars. If the dollar's not neutral and the United States can willy-nilly say, okay, you can't use that dollar anymore that you've saved in because you broke the rules. What are those rules? Who are they set by? United States. What country is actually going to want to buy United States debt? I don't see any rational country wanting to do that. So how does this affect you? If the government can't take out more debt, I would say faith in the dollar tends to drop. And as the faith in the dollar tends to drop, there's a myriad of things that can happen. Inflation, you can have unemployment, but really, if we're looking at what we're dealing with today, which is inflation, the Federal Reserve only has one of two options: high unemployment or high inflation. Because if they raise rates, they will have high unemployment, because our economy is really based off of borrowed money. And if borrowed money costs a lot more to borrow, then there's going to be a lot of businesses that can't take as many risks, pay as many employees, because cheap money was propping all of that easy employment up, or that expansion up. Now, if that expansion stops because of tight monetary policy from the Fed, we're going to have unemployment. And which one's more unpopular, inflation or unemployment? Those are two Fed mandates. They need to keep unemployment low and keep inflation low. One of those two things is going to happen as a result of Fed raising or not raising their interest rates. I don't think the Federal Reserve has the stomach, or politicians have the stomach, to actually raise interest rates. There's a reason it hasn't happened before, and it's not just this current administration's fault. We've been borrowing and borrowing and borrowing. And at this point, it is mathematically impossible to pay off the debt. Imagine you had a credit card and you went out and you're like, hey, I really like this new sick pair of Nikes. So you buy them and you're like, that was easy. Just swipe it. Nothing happens. And then you get kind of used to that. And so next month you buy even more on your credit card, because you bought the Nikes for $100, but you only have to pay $5 a month, right? So it's easy to pay that off for you now. But as that debt tends to grow and your consumption grows, maybe that credit card says, hey, you're maxed out, man. And so you go, okay, I'll get another credit card. So you get another credit card to pay off the first one, and that cycle keeps going. At a certain point, the income you have, and for our country, that would be tax receipts, the income you have, it's impossible to even keep up with the interest payments on that debt. So in the case of you with your personal credit cards, if you keep taking out more and more and more debt, at some point, even that bare minimum payment is going to be too much. What happens when they raise the interest rate on that payment? Ooh, man, you're going to have a real tough time. That's kind of the position our country's in. We've borrowed and borrowed and borrowed and borrowed and borrowed, and it's made us dependent on fiscal stimulus. So this just helps me think about probabilities of what the federal government's going to do. Most politicians, they don't run on a platform of, hey, we're going to have financial austerity. You guys are all going to take a huge haircut financially, and we're going to start paying off our debts. There's a reason they haven't done that before. It's because they probably wouldn't get reelected in the United States. So most politicians just keep kicking the can down the road. But what happens when there's no more road? So thinking in probabilities, not certainties, because I don't think you can ever say 100% this is going to happen. But it's in the past, inflation has been something that causes politicians to not get reelected. So they're going to fight it. The problem is we have a lot of debt. And if they fight it by raising rates, like we talked about earlier, it's going to have an effect on the economy, which will have an effect on tax receipts, which will have an effect on employment. So they're really between a rock and a hard place, and it'll be interesting to see what they do. Last story I want to get into, which I think is kind of funny. I'm sure some of you have heard about the White House reaching out to TikTokers to kind of spread the word about what we're doing to fight Ukraine. And I think that's kind of dumb, but I really think it's funny imagining what that conversation would have been like, because they had 30 TikTokers who are in their teens and early 20s on this Zoom call. And so there's some representative there, and I just imagine with these luminaries from TikTok, what they would be asking. Can I monetize this? So should I be like hashtag end war? Should I do like a selfie, like maybe with a little bit of cleavage and put hashtag free Ukraine? Should I do that? Is that something I should do? And then the politicians have to, or the representative that was on that Zoom call with them, had to kind of explain what was going on in Ukraine, kind of like Kamala Harris did.
Ukraine is a country in Europe. It exists next to another country called Russia. Russia is a bigger country. Russia is a powerful country. Russia decided to invade a smaller country called Ukraine. So basically, that's wrong.
All right, guys, that's it for today. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I'm going to leave you with this quote, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks.